Hello, John Flynn here from Flynn Real Estate, serving Southern Ontario, based out of the Niagara region. Thank you all once again for tuning in. I was just really thirsty there. I had to get a drink, couldn't even wait to get a glass. Bringing us to our first story of the week. $20,000 fine for real estate agent caught drinking client's milk from carton in Kamloops, BC. So, yet it was a pretty steep fine. Agent obviously shouldn't have done that. That was a big misuse of trust. And I'm not going to name any names. I don't do that. The video is out there if you want to see it. But I did think it was a newsworthy story to share on the channel this week. Anyway, let's move on to our new housing minister. And the funny thing about the new housing minister is he just came from being the minister of immigration. New housing minister says immigration can help address affordability and supply. Well, isn't that interesting? Here's just a few more lines of what he had to say, and then I'll kind of give you my opinion and share some other info on that. The answer is, at least in part, to continue to build more stock, Fraser told reporters after being sworn in. But I would like to urge caution to anyone who believes the answer to our housing challenges is to close the door on newcomers. When I talk to developers in my capacity as Minister of Immigration before today, one of the chief obstacles to completing the projects that they want to get done is having access to the labor force to build the houses that they need. So as you can see, the new minister is committed to housing affordability and building houses. And the new immigrants, I guess, they'll definitely want to build new houses because they won't be able to afford one. But let's see what his boss had to say yesterday about housing.
But we know there is a lot more to do. And I'll be blunt as well. Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. It's not something that we have direct carriage of.
So one is obviously very dedicated to building more homes and, increasing construction and whatnot. And the other one is saying, well, this is not the federal government's primary responsibility. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. And I would like to say it is the responsibility when you bring in 1 million new people and there's not enough homes for them. Well, you're responsible. Like the primary things in life are housing and food, or shelter and food, right? So yeah, I would say it's a federal responsibility to make sure housing is affordable and there are enough homes for, especially when you're importing or bringing in over 1 million people a year into the country. And I kind of just want to go over last year's immigration numbers. We've all heard the number, over 1 million new residents in Canada. And this is right from the Statistics Canada website on that, and kind of breaking down the numbers. Not too much, but just a quick breakdown to kind of brainstorm where we're at with supply and the amount of homes needed. Now, if any of you have watched my previous videos, over the past decade prior to the increased immigration, I said there's always been enough homes. You averaged out over 10 years or 5 years, or any way I've looked at it, technically there is enough homes, more than enough homes that were built. But going forward, we're going to have an issue if we're bringing in 1 million people a year and only building 200,000 or so homes. But anyway, let's take a quick look at the numbers from last year to show that, yes, there would be a housing shortage on 1 year's worth of data. Population growth of 1,050,000 people from January 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. So it's a lot of people. We would need, with 2.5 people per household, we would need about 420,000 homes. We built, I believe, or we completed around 220,000. So that looks like there is a 200,000 house shortage or residential unit shortage. Now, breaking down these numbers from last year in the same article, temporary immigration is a leading contributor to Canada's growth. For the year 2022, Canada welcomed 437,000 immigrants and saw a net increase of the number of non-residents estimated at 607,000. So you can see there is, the majority of them are non-permanent residents. And then there's a lot of students in those numbers too. And of course, we all know students and a lot of the non-permanent residents, they rent basement apartments, or they're included in a primary household from an existing Canadian. So we have to account. We can't say that the average household size now of the 1 million people is going to be 2.5 people. We probably have to average it out. We have students that are living 8 to 10 per house. We have all sorts of other situations. But again, the majority of that increase in population is from non-permanent residents. So now just talking about the 437,000 new immigrants that are permanent residents, landed immigrants and permanent residents, you need about 175,000 homes to house those people at 2.5 people per household. So again, there's more than enough homes that have been built for that part of the population. But when you're talking about the extra 600,000 non-permanent residents, well, of course, there's a shortfall. That I would estimate you'd probably need 120 to 150,000 units because they are more dense, the population. They live, more people in a house and whatnot because they're temporary. They don't need a big house to themselves. So I would say, again, another 100 to 150 or 120 to 150,000 homes, bringing the total anywhere from, say, 300,000 homes to 330,000 homes, which still leaves us, a good 100,000 homes short because we built 220,000 homes last year. So we still are short on homes. But how long is that non-permanent resident cycle going to last? And how long will they stick around? That's another question. Of course, I get lots of feedback on this topic. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. But now I'm going to move on to some end of the month stats for July. And this is a lot of it's just in Ontario for the data I have and some in GTA. But here they are, some interesting numbers. Starting with the months of supply. And this is for ITSO, the 20 boards surrounding GTA. A major part of the population of Canada lives in this area. And we're at 3.7 months of supply, which brings us back to 2015 levels. So our months of supply has dramatically increased, and we're headed back to decade old numbers at this point. Looking at the sales have significantly dropped off. Not unusual for this time of year. Sales are seasonal. They usually do drop off in July, but they did take a pretty big decrease for July. And the average percent of last original list price. So what are homes selling for in comparison to what they're listed for? And just there in 1 month, we went from 100.8% down to 88 I forget the exact number, but over 1% difference in what people are getting. So it has dropped off significantly. Again, it does happen seasonally in July, so not unusual to see that. And days on market is increasing as we speak. And lastly, the average sale price, you can see here, it has dramatically dropped. I think it was around 35 to 40,000 for this area. And in the GTA, it's dropped $50,000 in 1 month right now. So from June to July, it's $50,000 or about 4.5% of the average sale price. So pretty significant drop for 1 month. So yeah, those are some pretty significant numbers for this month. I'm going to go across all of Canada next week when I get the data, and we'll kind of do a summary like I always do for that. But until then, I'll see you next time.